Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Kaylee, and I'm going to be your host for the next few minutes here as we talk through the D4C cruise tour itinerary. Just give me 1 second to get my text situated here. Okay, we are all set. So my name is Kaylee. Like I said, I live and work in Anchorage, Alaska. I work for Holland America, and I did spend several years showing our Holland America guests all throughout the interior of Alaska and the Yukon. So I'm excited to talk you through the D4C cruise tour overview today. Now, I don't have a ton of time here, so I won't be spending much time on the cruise portion. We'll really be getting more into the land portion. But in general, we know that glaciers, wildlife, and wilderness are really important to our guests, and we bring this to the forefront of every itinerary. We have a long history of cruising and bringing guests to Alaska. We are celebrating over 75 years of showing people this place. That's longer than Alaska has been a state. So we've learned a lot over the years of what our guests are hoping to see and how to help them see it. We're rated the #1 cruise line in Alaska wildlife and wilderness tours. That means we have over 175 animal sightseeing and sanctuary excursions. We also have our very own glacier guarantee so that you can feel confident that your clients are going to have the glacier experience that they're hoping for. And in general, we offer more time on land than other cruise lines. We offer up to 3 nights in Denali, and we go into the Yukon Territory of Canada. So as a broad overview, we have a couple different ways to travel with Holland America to Alaska. Of course, we have our Alaska cruises, an array of different itineraries. And then we have different types of cruise tours. The one I'm going to talk about today, the D4C, is an Alaska and Denali cruise tour. It's that second option. Now, this is always a 7-day cruise paired with a land portion that travels to the interior of Alaska and Denali National Park and Preserve. For cruise tours in general, for the most part, you get to choose if the guest does their cruise first or if they do their land first. Now, the D4C, that C indicates they're doing the cruise first. Something that Holland America excels in is that sea to land transition, or vice versa, because we have our own infrastructure in Alaska. We have our own hotels and transportation and employees, so we make it really easy and seamless for your client. We even include luggage transportation on all of these cruise tours. And cruise tours are accessible. This is a question that I get a lot. Just let us know ahead of time. Put it in the notes of the booking so that we know and we can plan ahead, because we have accessible transportation and hotels and we can accommodate. Now, to speak through the itinerary, I brought up this chart. You have access to these charts in Holland America's 2026 Alaska Planner. We have a chart like this for every single itinerary. So the D4C one, I'll talk you through how to use it, and you'll have this tool forever. You can always access it on our website. So it's color coded. During the blue days, the guests are on the cruise. So days 0 through 6, they're cruising. We're not going to spend time on that right now. And then on the land, it turns green here, and it shows you where the guest is sleeping every night, and if they're traveling that day, how they are traveling. And I know this gets tricky with cruise tours sometimes because there's a couple things packed into one day, but very, very simply, for example, let's look at the D4C. The guests disembark the ship, they get on a motor coach that night, they're sleeping at Alyeska Resort. Next day is a day of leisure. They sleep at Alyeska Resort. Next day, they get on a motor coach. They travel to Anchorage. They sleep in Anchorage. Next day, they are taking the train, Holland America's McKinley Explorer, to Denali. And then they have a day of leisure in Denali. Next day, they are taking the motor coach up to Fairbanks. And the following day, they've got a day of leisure. Actually, it's some really cool included excursions in Fairbanks. And then they sleep there, and their cruise tour concludes, and they'll be flying home from Fairbanks. So that's how you use these charts, and you'll be seeing these icons as I work my way throughout the itinerary. So As far as the cruise goes, all of our Alaska cruises are an immersive experience. This is something that Holland America does extremely well, whether it's the different excursions we offer, a variety of activity levels, and something for every interest. If you're looking for Alaskan Native culture or sea kayaking or fishing or just a nice stroll in the scenery, we have excursions for everybody. And we bring the Alaska experience on board. That is one of our strengths, is our immersive Alaska programming. Everything from wildlife trivia to national park rangers actually boarding the ship and spending the day with us. And we include this in our dining. Something I'm really proud to say as an Alaskan is that all of our ships serve 100% certified, sustainably sourced Alaska seafood. So to quickly talk through the cruise, we've got the first day cruising the Inside Passage, great for wildlife viewing. Ketchikan is the first port. This is the fishing spot for salmon or halibut, or you can go to the crab fishing demo. Juneau is our little state capital. Amazing whale watching here. Skagway is one of my favorite ports. It is so historic. It's the gateway to the Klondike during that Klondike Gold Rush. And one of the best ways to take in this beautiful place is on this train, the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad. And this itinerary has 2 days of glacier cruising. The first is at the incredible Glacier Bay National Park. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, over 3.3 million acres of pristine wilderness. And Holland America has more permits than any other cruise line to bring our guests to this place. This is why we are a leader in glacier cruising. And one of my tips for glacier cruising, whether it's in Glacier Bay or College Fjord, is to get outside. So make sure your client packs layers. They bring a t-shirt, it might be sunny. They bring some layers to bundle up in so that they can go out on the glacier cruising days. When we open up the bow and we're serving the Dutch pea soup outside, let them have that outdoor experience with the fresh air and the wildlife and the scenery. So then they arrive in Whittier. This is their point of disembarkation. And here we'll transition on to the land. So to give you a little overview of where the land travels will take them, I highlighted a map here. The southernmost point of that yellow line is Whittier, and the northernmost point is Fairbanks, where they will be concluding their tour. And just to point out, this line travels about 350 miles, just to give you some scale about how vast Alaska is. Okay, their first day on land, they get off the ship, they take the motor coach. They actually get to have lunch on board the ship first, and then they'll take the motor coach to an included excursion, the Portage Glacier Cruise. This is a smooth glacier lake. They get to get on a small vessel and cruise right out to the face of a glacier. This is narrated by a national forest ranger. And then they'll come back and head to Alyeska. This is it's a pretty short travel day, and they get to have the evening of leisure here. Now, to clarify, they're staying at Alyeska Resort. That's the name of the hotel, and Girdwood, Alaska is the name of the town. Alyeska is a ski resort in the wintertime, and in the summertime, it's this beautiful, lush property. There's easy access, hiking and walking, a little shuttle around this town that will take them to fun spots like the local brewery, and lots to see and do here, which is why it's great that day 8 is their day of leisure at Alyeska. So they can take advantage of some of those free activities, or they could take the tram. That's one of my favorites. Up the mountain, up Mount Alyeska, to the Seven Glaciers restaurant. I do want to note that at certain times of the year, the tram is closed for seasonal maintenance, and that does happen in the springtime. So on those May departures, it might be closed, but fret not, there's so much to do here. Alyeska is also home to one of the only Nordic spas in North America. It's incredible. Access is not included in the stay, but if your client is a spa lover, I think they should check it out. Great jumping off point for excursions as well. If they're looking to get up close with some of our Alaska wildlife, the Wildlife Conservation Center is nearby. That's where they can see bear and moose and muskox and wolves. It's really neat. The 26 Glacier Cruise is just around the corner, and that is another smaller vessel that takes them out for lots of glacier cruising, as it implies, and wildlife viewing. Okay, next day they are getting on a motor coach in the late morning and headed to my hometown, Anchorage, Alaska. This is a pretty short drive, short on my terms, 45 minutes to an hour down the very, very scenic Seward Highway along the Turnagain Arm, which is the body of water that connects out to the ocean. We sometimes have beluga whales coming up during the springtime. Beautiful drive. Once they get to Anchorage, I always recommend checking in with guest services or with the front desk to see what's going on, because we have so much programming, different activations like artisan markets and free concerts downtown all spring and summer. Also, for a great city highlights tour, the Anchorage Trolley will take them around and give them the possibility of spotting our urban moose, which are pretty common, and to different city highlights like the Lake Hood Seaplane. It's the largest float plane airport in the world. Okay, the next day they are headed to Denali on Holland America's McKinley Explorer train cars. These are the largest passenger train cars to date. They are all double-decker cars. Everyone sits up on that top story, forward facing, the big glass dome over their heads. Like I said, these are accessible, so let us know if your client requires a lift. We do have some cars that have lifts built in, and the bottom, the first story of all of these cars is a restaurant where they can purchase breakfast or lunch. So this is pretty much a full day on the train, around about 8 hours. They've got a rail guide and a bartender. And if you have a couple groups who are traveling together, make sure to mark them, cross-reference their bookings so that we know to seat them together on the train. Once they arrive in Denali, they are staying at Holland America's Denali Lodge. It's our gorgeous 60-plus acre campus located right at the boundary of the national park. So all those mountains you see back there, that's Mount Healy. That's within the national park. We do have free shuttles that run to the park entrance all day, but if they're up for a walk, it's a little over a mile to the park entrance. Now, this is the main lodge building, but there is so much going on here. This photo is from what we call Denali Square, the gathering hub where we have live music every night, an artist in residence studio, lots of activities happening in Denali Square and all around the property. This is one of our guests' favorite places to stay. So the 2-night stay on the D4C is great. Lots of different dining options and activities right on site, as well as excursions. One little treat I'd encourage you to explore for your guests is the option to upgrade to a Denali suite. This is the only chance that they have to upgrade their accommodations on the land. And Denali suites are not connected to being booked into a suite on the ship. This is a separate choice. Any Holland America Line cruise tour guest can upgrade to a Denali suite, which can be booked after the cruise tour booking is opened. And there are a variety of accommodations on property. The Denali suites are definitely the newest, the newly refurbished. They've got the upgraded amenities and upgraded decor, and they all have their own little private exterior area, like a balcony or a terrace, so the guest can really soak in the piece. Another thing I want to mention are the Great Land meal plans. Now, food on the land portion of cruise tours is not included up front. They can opt to purchase a meal plan to kind of solve for that. Now, we have some guests who are so happy not on a meal plan, but if this is something that your client is interested in, we have a variety. We've got the Denali only plan because there are lots of different spots to dine in Denali. We've got the breakfast only plan. We have a full plan. And I will say that on the full plan, a lot of times lunch is not included because the guests are in transit. So that's how that works. But this is a great option, especially for guests who just want to take care of that expense up front and know that for the most part, food is handled. And it is a good value for what's included in the meal plan. Now, all of our guests staying in Denali with us are going on a national park tour. This is something we have built in for them. And the Tundra Wilderness Tour is what the D4C guests will receive. And this will take them literally as far as you can drive into Denali National Park. And that is a privilege because the public can only drive about 16 miles in. After that, you have to be on a national parks tour. So we know our guests want to get out there for the wilderness and the wildlife and the chance to see that big mountain, the largest mountain in North America, Denali. So we include the Tundra Wilderness Tour for them. Okay, the next day they have kind of a afternoon departure and a couple hours on the motor coach, about 3 hours up to Fairbanks, Alaska. I love Fairbanks. I do recommend on this day, maybe a little bit relaxing evening because the next day is a big day, but there are excursions available if they're wanting to take advantage of that midnight sun. So the final day of their itinerary is a double header of included excursions. They'll get to go on the Riverboat Discovery, which is pictured here. They get to have lunch at the Riverboat Discovery, and they're going to Gold Dredge 8. Gold Dredge 8 is a really hands-on excursion. They get to learn about gold mining in Fairbanks and in Alaska. They get to see a real gold dredge. They get to do their own gold panning, and they get to see the Alyeska pipeline, the oil pipeline. And then the Riverboat Discovery is my favorite. It's a variety show of Alaska culture. There's a replica native village where there's educational presentations. There's a dog mushing demonstration, a float plane demonstration. It's just the best. And like I said, lunch is included at the riverboat. So that is a big day for their last day. They spend the night in Fairbanks and then they are headed out flying home the next day. So that concludes the Alaska and Denali D4C itinerary. I know I just went through a lot of information. Something I do recommend for you as a travel agent is to check out the 2026 Alaska Planner on our Holland America website. It really does get into the minutia with charts like the flow chart that I was using, different notes on what is or isn't included. And just as a final note, I personally really like to set guest expectations at the beginning. I advise you to do the same when they're planning their trip to Alaska. They are going to visit modern locations, but everything is just a stone's throw away from the wilderness at all times. We have a limited road system, a limited rail system, somewhat limited cell service and Wi-Fi. Alaska, it's the real deal. It's the Great North, and a guest's headspace can make all the difference if they know that they should prepare to just be a little bit flexible, because Alaska has its own heart, its own personality, and that is really what people fall in love with as well. So I hope you feel a little bit more confident about selling the D4C cruise tour. I appreciate you taking the time to further your understanding of Holland America's cruise tour product, and we hope to host your clients very soon. Thank you so much.